This is TWiT.
So one of the rules of the road is that companies that are owned by the public through publicly traded stock have a fiduciary duty to tell the truth to their stockholders.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
Yes. When something occurs that could meaningfully affect the company's value.
Yes.
For example, on December 14th, 2020, the day after the Washington Post reported that multiple government agencies had been breached through SolarWinds Orion software, the company itself, SolarWinds, stated in an SEC filing that fewer than 18,000 of its 33,000 Orion customers were affected. Still, 18,000 customers affected made it a monumental breach, and there was plenty of fault to be found in SolarWinds' previous and subsequent behavior. But they fessed up. They said, okay, this is what happened. But I didn't bring this up to talk about them. I wanted to share some interesting reporting by Cyberscoop, whose headline a week ago was SEC hits 4 companies with fines for misleading disclosures about SolarWinds hack. In other words, for misleading the public about the impact their use of SolarWinds Orion software had on their businesses and how it might affect, their shareholders' value. Cyberscoop's subhead was Unisys, Avaya, Checkpoint, and Mimecast will pay fines to settle charges that they downplayed in SEC filings the extent of the compromise. And this is the point that I wanted to make. The management of companies owned by the public need to tell the truth. So let's take a closer look at this. Cyberscoop wrote, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, said it has reached a settlement with 4 companies for making materially misleading statements about the impact of the 2020 SolarWinds Orion software breach on their businesses. The regulator charged the 4 companies, Unisys, Avaya Holdings Corp., Checkpoint Software Technologies, and Mimecast Limited, with, quote, minimizing the compromise or describing the damage to internal systems and data as theoretical, despite knowing that substantial amounts of information had been stolen. In other words, they outright lied to their shareholders. Cyberscoop said the acting director of the SEC's Division of Enforcement said in a statement, as today's enforcement actions reflect, while public companies may become targets of cyber attacks, it's incumbent upon them to not further victimize their shareholders or other members of the investing public by providing misleading disclosures about the cybersecurity incidents they've encountered. Here, the SEC's orders find that these companies provided misleading disclosures about the incidents at issue, leaving investors in the dark about the true scope of those incidents. As part of the settlement agreement reached, the companies have agreed to pay fines with no admission of wrongdoing. Okay, so in the first place, they're not having to say, we lied. So there's that. But then I was unimpressed, frankly, by the amounts. Unisys will pay $4 million. Avaya, $1 million. Checkpoint, $995,000. And Mimecast, $990,000. According to the SEC, by December 2020, Avaya, for example, already knew that at least one cloud server holding customer data and another server for their lab network had both been breached by hackers working for the Russian government. Later that month, a third-party service provider alerted the company that its cloud email and file sharing systems had also been breached, likely by the same group and through means other than the SolarWinds Orion software. A follow-up investigation identified more than 145 shared files accessed by the threat actor, along with evidence that the Russian group known as APT-29, aka Cozy Bear, monitored the emails of the company's cybersecurity incident responders. So they were deeply penetrated, and they knew it. Despite this, in a February 2021 quarterly report, a couple months later, Avaya described the impact in far more muted terms, saying the evidence showed the threat actors accessed only, quote, a limited number of company email messages. Okay, that's a little gray. And there was, quote, no current evidence of unauthorized access in our other internal systems. Okay, so you could call into question the word current, right? They knew that those representations were flatly false. Unisys's investigation uncovered that following the disclosure of a device running Orion, multiple systems, 7 network, and 34 cloud-based accounts, including some with admin privileges, were accessed over the course of 16 months. The threat actors also repeatedly connected to their network and transferred more than 33 gig of data. But the SEC's cease and desist order stated that Unisys had, quote, inaccurately described the existence of successful intrusions and the risk of unauthorized access to data and information in hypothetical terms, despite knowing that intrusions had actually happened and, in fact, involved unauthorized access and exfiltration of confidential and or proprietary information, unquote. The company also appeared to have no formal procedures in place for identifying and communicating high-risk breaches to executive leadership for disclosure. Anyway, and there are similar instances at Checkpoint and Mimecast.
Hey, it's Leo Laporte. I hope you've enjoyed this little snippet from Security Now. If you want the whole show, you can get it at our website, twit.tv/SN. Of course, you can subscribe to Security Now on your favorite podcast, or just click one of the links below.
Security Now.